Hi, it's Greg, and I'm in Washington, D.C. What a cool place. Right now I can look out my window and I see the Capitol, and the sun's starting to set, and wow, it's just, it's amazing. If you haven't made it to Washington, D.C., you should. It's full of energy, as you can imagine, some positive, some negative, but the historic feel, the patriotic feel that you get when you step into these buildings and these memorials is just incredible. It's an incredible feeling. You never feel more American than when you're in one of those places. So it does have a special place in my heart. But the reason I'm filming this today is because I want to share with you why I'm here in Washington, D.C., why I took the time out of our very busy business and have come up here. As most of you know, I'm a business owner. I'm also a husband and a father, and I'm also a member of the American Traffic Safety Services Association. As a business owner for 16 years, I know and I recognize that the plight of the folks here on Capitol Hill is not much different than the plight I have there in Jacksonville. The plight and the issues that they're dealing with here behind their desk on the Hill are no different than my issues that I'm having behind the desk in my office in Jacksonville. We are both looking for ways to survive with minimum and restricted resources, and it's not easy. But as we seek out these ways, these methods, these investments, we need to make sure, more than ever, that everything we invest, every penny we invest, we have impact. Where can we get the bang for our buck? Now, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, growing up and developing this business, a great part of the success that I've had is by acting on my passion. But in times like this, in economies like this, passion's just not enough. It's about investment impact. Whether these guys are trying to pass a health bill or a transportation funding bill, which is what I'm here for today, they have to ensure more than ever, it's more critical than ever, that they are getting an impact with their investment. I said a few minutes ago that I'm a husband. I'm a husband of 21 years. Most of you know that, and I have 3 children. Greg, who's 18 years old, he's been driving for about 3 years. Nicole's 16. She's been driving for about a year and a half. And my youngest is Taylor. And Taylor, he's 14. But believe it or not, by the end of this year, he'll be driving. It's hard for me to believe, as you can imagine. 14 years old. He'll be driving at the end of the year on his learner's permit. So you can imagine that roadway safety has never been more important to me personally. On that basis alone, I could come up here to Capitol Hill and I could plead passionately, please do everything we can to make our roadway safer. But I know passion's just not enough. Now, I'm a member, as I said, of American Traffic Safety Services Association. If you're not familiar with them, this is one of the largest organizations that focus primarily on roadway safety. I've also been in the roadway safety industry for 21 years now. Through that time, in growing my business, I've become quite an expert and quite experienced on roadway safety and what are the most efficient, effective ways to save lives. As these guys here on Capitol Hill, when I make a decision on something, on an investment, I look at numbers. I look at calculations, statistics, figures. I used to say that, and I kind of still stand by it, if it doesn't have moral implications, no matter what it is, it can be answered with math. I want to share some statistics and some numbers with you for a moment. You may or may not know that in the last decade, we've lost over 430,000 lives on U.S. roadways. 430,000. That's almost 500,000 lives. I got some good news for you, though. 2010 compared to 2000, we reduced deaths by 21%. The death rate on our highways is lower than it has been since 1949. That is an accomplishment. That's an impact. Now, how have we done that? Well, there's several contributors. Some are very obvious and some are not so obvious. An obvious one is that we drive safer cars. Industry and government's gotten together and they've said, okay, we're only going to have cars that have crumble zones and have ABS. I can't tell you how many accidents ABS has saved my butt. We're going to have better seat belts, better restrainment systems. We're going to have airbags, those type of things. So through this improvement of vehicle safety, it's actually saved lives, and it's a contributor, a major contributor. Another contributor is behavior. Again, private industry, government agencies, and nonprofits have come together to bring about awareness of the importance of behavioral driving. Don't drive when you've been drinking. Don't drive and be on the phone. Don't drive and text. They've even gone as far as to limit how many hours a truck driver can be on the road at a time. These behavioral changes have been a big contributor and an obvious contributor to roadway safety. But let me share something that's a little more obscure. That's something that you may not know about unless you're here on Capitol Hill, or you're in American Traffic Safety Services Association, or you're in the industry that we're in. There's something called the HSIP. That's the Highway Safety Improvement Program. Highway Safety Improvement Program. This is a program that has taken a portion of the transportation funding and it has set it apart, and it says this money will only be used on things that improve the safety of our highways. This program has been incredible in making our roadways safer. That with programs like the Rural Roads, which addresses the issue of you're 2.5 times more likely to die on a rural road than you are on a standard suburb road. Then there's the older drivers. The older drivers movement is addressing the fact that our drivers are getting older, our population is getting older, baby boomers. And by the way, I missed that like by 1 year, so I'm not a baby boomer. I'm younger. But the baby boomers are getting older now. Our population is getting older. The drivers are getting older, and they have special needs when it comes to driving. You know, these are investments that's been made that have a direct impact. Now, in the past, and hopefully in the future, highway safety, roadway safety, it's a bipartisan issue. It doesn't care what political affiliation you're in. See, and I'll tell you why. Because roadways don't care what political affiliation you are. It doesn't care what sex you are. It doesn't care what age you are. It doesn't care what religion you are. The roadway provides an equal opportunity for everyone to die on it. Let me share a couple more statistics with you. A couple more numbers. One is that last year, between 2010 and 2011, we continued to reduce the traffic fatalities by 952 more people. We saved 952 more lives. The sad part is that we lost 32,800 last year. So we have a long way to go. But if you don't remember anything else from this video, I ask that you remember this. Behind every number is a life. It's your father, it could be your mother, it could be your sister, your brother, and God forbid, it could be your son or your daughter. In fact, if you haven't been significantly affected, directly affected, by a roadway fatality, I would say you will likely in the future. With these figures, We'll all be impacted eventually. Such a situation hits close to home. And I want to show you something close to home. I have Paul putting up some videos now, or some photos. A little slideshow in which you'll see in these pictures, these are all memorial markers of different types, different sizes. Some are of agencies. Or, I'm sorry, they're placed there by agencies. By request of the family, or the friends, loved ones. Some are makeshift. You see the crosses, the homemade crosses, and so forth. These are all for the same purpose. They're to memorialize the life of someone they loved being taken in that very spot. I want to stop on this last one because it has significant meaning to me, and I want to share that with you. First of all, it's only about 1.5 miles from my house. Secondly, it's very different than the rest. In fact, there's only a very small little cross right there. It's made up of some peculiar things. You see on the left-hand side, it's a rusted out old tail light, and you see the license tag there, all bent up. And then if you look to the top right there, you'll notice that there's a little toy ATV with a balloon and a smiley face on the balloon. As I walked up on this, I noticed that I saw this ATV, and it was fairly new compared to the rest of the stuff, and I saw it was sitting in a hubcap, and underneath it was this piece of paper, and as I got closer I noticed there was some writing on it. As I approached it, I bent over, began reading this, and I hit my knees. I told you earlier that I have my youngest son. His name is Taylor, and he's 14 and will be driving this year. So as I read this, as you'll see in a moment, it significantly impacted me. Kind of brought things home, close to home. Let me read it to you. It says, Taylor, I love you, sweetie. You have changed the way I live my life. Happy early birthday. Make a wish. Let me tell you, Taylor, reading that has changed the way I live my life. I ask you that whoever you are, support roadway safety initiatives. You can do it in so many different ways. Support the Highway Safety Improvement Program. Make sure it stays secure, and that's what it's used for. Increase it. Support things like the Rural Roads programs and the older drivers programs. You see, because these are investments with true impact. Impact that not only change people's lives, but saves their lives. Thanks for your time. God bless.